Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Writer's Chat today. We have a very special guest with us. And before I do that, I say I am Brandy Bro, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Johnny Alexander and Melissa Stroh. And we're really excited to welcome back one of our special people. She's one of our own. And I will let Melissa introduce you to her.
I know there's quite a few of us who need no introduction. Yeah, I can't talk today. I'm sorry.
It's fine. We're good.
Bethany Jett returning with us again. We just love having Bethany on here. She's always just a wealth of information, and of course you know the co-owner of Serious Writer. But for those who might be joining us today or who are watching the recording who don't know, Bethany Jett is a multi-award-winning traditionally published author and ghostwriter and marketing strategist who received top honors in her master's program where she earned her MFA in communications, focusing on marketing and PR. Her motto is teach as you go, which she lives out as the co-owner of Serious Writer, a company that teaches and empowers writers and authors. Bethany is married to her college sweetheart, and together they're raising 3 boys, 2 teens, and 1 preteen. She loves to post on Instagram about hashtag marketing and mom life and her 2 fluffy Pomeranians. And you can connect with her at bethanyjett.com. Today, Bethany's going to be talking to us about the all-in-one proposal marketing machine. And we're excited about that. So thank you, Bethany. Take it away.
I'm super excited to be here because I'm kind of merging 3 workshop keynotes into this one thing. Because I've taught, before on so many different things. So this is going to be kind of new piecing it together. And I really am excited for the Q&A because I think where probably the majority of learning takes place, because being able to go into the questions that are kind of those, okay, how did you do this, or how does this piece work together? I think that's where a lot of growth comes from. And I always love Q&A when I'm listening to keynotes and workshops. So I'm totally open to that. And I'll be paying attention to the chat too. So this is going to feel a little like scattered, but it's kind of because I want to show different parts of the marketing process. So instead of taking you from A to Z, I kind of want to show you a bird's eye view of multiple aspects, from proposal then to the content creation that needs to come from the proposal. So just stick with me, and I hope it's going to be great. So if you have a book proposal that you're working on, pull it up or have it ready or be thinking about your books. I'm going to show you a couple of mine to hopefully just give some ideas on things to do for marketing. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, and hi to everybody in the chat. I didn't get to say hi to everyone before we came on, but it's so good to see you. I see so many familiar faces in here. So, all right, so excited. All right, so there's some things that I think we need to do kind of like as a baseline. And one of them is, no matter what you're writing, children's fiction or nonfiction, you're going to be thinking about themes and elements that are nonfiction in nature. So, Mom, you're always my go-to every time for this. But I think one of your books, because you write novels, has July 4th picnics and all these kind of summer activities. And so that's not only the point of your novel is that July 4th and picnics and things, but that's coming up in the world calendar. And so that's where, especially because we're about 2.5 months out, that's where I would be thinking, okay, how can I start pulling people into my marketing to promote my book using things that are going on right now? So I recommend making a marketing spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you one that I've got. So I've got lots and lots of screens open. So hopefully I will be showing you the right thing. So let me know. Okay, you should be seeing a spreadsheet inside of Google Sheets. And it's, I don't know, I don't even like looking at this, although I do love spreadsheets because there's so many words in here and it's not all color coded, which really helps my eye. But I want you to think about marketing before the book is out. So if you're pre-book or you have a work in progress, that's great. If you have a book that is in book proposal stage right now, then that's also great because you can be working on this. And if you already have some books out, go back and do this for the books that you already have in your backlist that you're going to start working on. So like Mom, for example, like Misty Willow series, I know you knew that was the series I was talking about, but that's been out for a little bit. So let's resurrect it a little bit with some things. So just some headings, and I'll read them for anyone who's just listening only. It's just a very basic spreadsheet. Really, the very first thing you're looking at is for the podcast name, which is column B in my spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet that I was just searching for. I think I was searching for teen, Christian teen or faith is what I was looking for. And I was looking for podcasts that would be good for me to pitch for a book that came out almost 10 years ago. So I'm working on a backlist with this. So the podcast name is here, but I also, in column A, where did I find this podcast? So that way I can always go back to, as I was doing a Google search, I can always go back to the original post. Then I have a link to the podcast. So once I find some podcasts, I have the link. Usually it's iTunes. Typically, I go ahead and put the description in here, who is hosting the podcast. And then this is where I got to. So I haven't contacted anybody, haven't sent any queries, haven't made any notes. But my goal to get started on this was, can I come up with maybe 10 podcasts that have potential for me to reach out to? So think about, you can do this for every single one of your books. You can see I've got a lot of different tabs down here, kind of broken down into themes. And then this is kind of how you can keep track of those queries. And I will say that Susan Neal did an amazing writer's chat where she shared about how to get on podcasts and how to query them. And that is on the YouTube channel. It's amazing. So I don't even need to say anything about that. I recommend going and watching that. I learned so much from her when you're ready to do the contacts. But the very first part is to go ahead and find a list of places that you can pitch yourself to. And you can do this with magazines, podcasts, radio. You're kind of being your own PR person for this, for your own publicity. So I'll stop share. I'm going to kind of go into segments and any questions, I guess, on any of that.
I just think that's a cool idea to go back and do it for your other books too, and keep that in mind. As a writer, it's really hard to keep that marketing mindset when you're focusing on the writing, and to think about that. And that kind of breaks it down into a really easy, doable format.
It's really helpful. It'll be helpful too when you start querying. And sometimes with books and the backlist, for anyone here who has that backlist of books, you go through that launch process, and then books kind of like peters out, kind of goes downhill. Like you get real excited, you're promoting, that first 3 months after the book comes out, you're really doing a lot for the book. And then usually it kind of levels a little bit, because you're either starting to work on the next book, or there's another project or something else has come up, because you put so much time into the launch of this book that now you're catching up on all the things that you didn't get done beforehand. And so that's just kind of this launch cycle. And so this can kind of help if you're thinking, okay, I can send 3 emails a week to these places, but going ahead and getting the research done first is really helpful. So that's one of my tips.
Now, would you allude to something like this in your proposal, like to show that you're making efforts or willing to make the efforts to?
I would put it in the proposal. And I would contact the people before the proposal goes out. So right before that proposal goes to the agent, I would have a contact date in there to show that I've already submitted to those. So that would be kind of that motivation for me to get it done. For that, I think somebody wants to see it again. I can share. Here's the spreadsheet. Really just getting basic. Oh wait, I didn't even share it. Sorry. Here it is. So really all this is, I don't want to have to get on Google again. So I'm just thinking, what do I need to get from Google to get into the spreadsheet? So I'm just working in the spreadsheet at this point. Because if I want to go to iTunes or the contact name, and with this, ideally, as I'm thinking about it, I didn't go so far as to figure out how to contact them yet. That was kind of going to be phase 2. This phase 1 was just getting as many podcasts that I thought would work for this as possible. And a lot of times people make lists for you. So like I'm going to go back and I would need to update this one, but I would be looking for podcasts on Christian dating 2022, or top best podcasts for parents of teens, which is probably, I think, what I wrote, because I'm selling to parents of teenagers, not to the teenagers themselves, even though it's a book for YA. And so, and then I always put the date 2022 in there, because that way you're going to pull up some newer things, but I would, at the next phase of this would be going to those links and actually figuring out what the contact email is, and then making the contact at that point. So that's why I don't have that in here, because I didn't get that far. I was just pulling from people's lists. So hope that's helpful. I'll stop share. All right. Hey, Charles. All right. So the question was, how do you select potential podcasts and target audience and keywords? So, well, like I said, for this one, this is a dating book for teenagers. So I'm looking for podcasts that hit the market of parents of teens or college age. That's kind of what I was looking for there. For a book on, for moms, I'd be looking for the top mom podcasts if you're doing, and then you can also lean into the genre. So if you're writing fiction, look for podcasts that are talking about the genre of book that you're writing. So if it's historical, I think it's going to be one of the easiest because there's organization societies. People love the time period and the history, and you know so much about it. You know all the nonfiction stuff because that's the research for the book. So start looking, you can lean into it that way. So I'll just start hitting keywords and you can rabbit trail really quickly. So one podcast or one page that has some podcast lists may take you to another page where you're getting another recommendation from someone else. And even looking in Facebook groups and asking people who their favorite podcasters are for these things is really good, especially if you're in a genre group. So if you're writing, I don't know, contemporary, and you're on Facebook and some contemporary reader groups, not writer groups, but readers, asking, who are your top 3 favorite podcasters or YouTube channels, and start paying attention to which ones come up over and over and over again, because those are your influencers. So you want to go look at them and, contact them maybe, but what are they talking about right now on their show, like within the last 2 months? And then those are the topics that you probably should start steering your articles, your blog posts, or your social media towards, because they've got the pulse, like they're doing it. And we're just trying to stand in front of that audience as well, if that makes sense. Mom, good? Okay, you're saying so quiet.
Excuse me. Just for those who are like new to proposals, maybe this is like their first book or something, how would they categorize this in a proposal? What's the best place to put this information?
I actually have my proposal pulled up because I thought maybe it would be helpful to see a proposal. All right, so let me just scroll real quick and look for where I would put that. All right, I'm going to share screen again. All right, you should be seeing a Word document.
Yes.
All right. So I don't have the spreadsheet for this book, but if I was going to be doing it, I would stick it right down in this area. So this is where I have a lot of social media strategies and tactics. And I would be doing it probably under podcast, or I would do it at the end. And so I would have a big chart just right here that had, different, I would probably list the different podcasts. I wouldn't do a copy and paste out of here because there's so much information that they don't need, but I probably have a chart that had the name of the podcast, my contact person, and when I contacted them. And so I would want to contact them before, I would want to send the query out before I sent the proposal, because then they can see where I'm going. And then I would have a second one that said, these are the ones I haven't contacted yet, but I'm working on it. So with proposals, you really want to keep it from being what I'm going to do and show what you're doing. And so any ideas that you've got in the proposal, this is basically your marketing plan. So we can live in the proposal for a few minutes if we want to, because I think the proposal is real. It's the marketing machine. It really, really is. So I'm going to pop out of this one though real quick, because I said we're going to jump just a little bit. So I wanted to kind of, before we go kind of dig into a proposal with all the elements in there, I wanted to kind of share what it looks like to create content from the book when you're thinking of it from a marketing mindset, if we can go there. So just let me know if there's any questions in the chat.
While you're doing that, Catherine was asking about an official directory that organizes podcasts and blogs. And I don't know of anything official like that. I know that Thomas Umstattd Jr. did have something, but it was available to people that took a certain class or to Patreons or something. So it wasn't just available to anybody. But if you're interested, you might see, go to his website, do a search, and maybe you could figure out how you could obtain that. But other than that, I don't know any list. I think Bethany's idea of asking reader groups and being involved in, which, we should probably be anyway, is a really, really good idea. I know that if you're writing historical fiction, Liz Tolsma, who writes mainly World War II, but she has a podcast for historical fiction. There are a couple others out there. So you do just have to network and, talk to other authors and see who they're connecting with and try to get contacts that way too, maybe.
You would think that there would be this like,
I know.
this directory somewhere, right? Because there are many for markets, right?
Right.
So, I would, hey, maybe that's something somebody in here could go, hey, go find and create a directory. Of course, it would be probably a big challenge to keep it updated because things come and go all the time, even more than markets.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would be a great resource to have. Anybody finds one or a really good resource, please pop it in the Writers Chat members group on Facebook.
I also recommend, I don't know how many podcasts are in here, but you can do this with publications as well. So art, places to write online or guest post or magazines, but the Writer's Market Guide, the Christian Writer's Market Guide, those are always great places to put in there. And then, I think too, for the podcast, I think that probably within genre or topic, there's probably already lists. So that's where I was looking for people who had already kind of like crime podcasts are so popular. And so there's usually like a top 10 list, within that community has made their own. And so that it's really about going back to the reader, like people who are interested in those topics and seeing who they're listening to and what they're talking about as well. All right, so now we're just gonna do these pop-ins to different aspects of the marketing. And so what we're going to talk about, this one is a devotional called They Call Me Mom. It's 52 weeks. And part of this is the book that kind of changed the marketing mindset for me. Because when we sent this proposal in, we didn't really have it all outlined completely, like with chapter descriptions. We just kind of knew the titles. And when we got the proposal back, when Michelle and I were writing this book, we realized that it was a little too fluffy for our taste. And we were just like, I can't believe that, this is the book that we're going to write. So we changed it about 50-60%. And really started looking at this book from the mom's perspective and like, what do they need right now? Not what do we think we need? And so it changed every single thing that we did about it. And so I'm going to show you one of the chapters, and I'm just going to show you, and I've got Canva pulled up too. Just want to show you some resources we created out of it, because that's how I think about writing books now. Is with fiction, I think about the fandom and some nonfiction elements, but that's not really what you're thinking about when you're writing it. That's really going to be more on the marketing side. When I'm writing nonfiction, I am now always in the mindset of how do I market this chapter? How do I market this book? So that's the example I'm going to share in here, because it's 52 devotions, which is 52 weeks, which means we've got 52 weeks of marketing in the proposal, except we didn't have it then because we did it after the book was contracted. So I can't show you what the proposal looks like that, but I can show you what we're doing with it now. So let me go ahead and share screen again. All right, so I have on the left-hand side, and I can zoom in or out. I was just trying to get everything on the same screen. I have the galley copy of They Call Me Mom, and all the galley copy just means it's a PDF from the publisher, and it's pretty much your last look at the book. So it's already gone through your editing, and when they send it back to you in this form, I'll scroll up a little bit. They've already got their design. They've already had the typesetter come in. The fonts have been chosen. And when they give you the galleys, they're very strict. They say, look, you can't really change anything unless it's an emergency thing, because all the page numbers are already set. You don't want to be putting too much content in that's going to shift everything in the typeset. So it's looking for really typos, or I didn't mean to say this word here. This is a scary edit because it's pretty much the last time that you get to touch your book before it goes to print. So this is the galley of it. This is chapter 9. So I'm gonna scroll down. So we have these sidebars in every single chapter, and this one is called Kid-Friendly Easy Individual Mini Pizzas, which is the longest title ever. It is not part of our original proposal, but let me tell you a story. So when we were doing research, after we're a contract for this book, we're doing the research now, and we start looking up the top mommy blogs, some of the top pins on Pinterest. What were the top posts that each one of them which posts had gotten the most eyeballs on them? And this one woman had a It was easy to make frozen individual meatloaves or something like that. That post got 200 shares on Facebook. And I was so impressed because getting like one share on Facebook can be difficult. So getting 200 shares on Facebook was great. But that same post got 400,000 pins on Pinterest. And it was for these easy frozen individual something meatloaves. And I remember looking at Michelle and I said, you know what? We're going to put a recipe in our book, something that's easy to make. And so we started looking at the keywords from all of these amazing bloggers. What were they talking about? What were they giving? It's all the same things that we tell you all the time. What are the keywords that are coming up over and over and over? And so I didn't want to copy her tagline. So I was looking at other recipes now. So now I'm looking at what are people using in their keyword captions on Pinterest, on their websites. And so ours were kid-friendly, easy individual mini pizzas, which I never would have thought of before. And so now we have the recipe here. It's something that they get downloaded when they opt into our email, and it's also in the book. So pretty much just pulled it right out of there. So this is one way that we're utilizing the content from the book and using it to create graphics, to create PDFs, to build email lists. We can write a blog about it. If I was smart, I would probably need to make this recipe with my kids and make a TikTok about it, which I should probably do that. So anyway, so there's a lot that can come from the content that we're putting into our nonfiction. If we can think about what can I put in here, that's something that's going to be valuable that I can then, and how can I utilize that? I can turn it into a PDF easily, and I can make a TikTok where we're actually making it. And I can also put it on YouTube, the longer version of making this as well. So now we've got a lot of content, email, YouTube, social media, all promoting the book without really promoting the book. And the one way we did that is the title here, They Call Me Mom, and then I have the chapter here, because I'm going to assume they have the book and can look it up. Okay, I'm going to stop share at this point and come back and talk to me.
Some people are commenting that all of this seems overwhelming.
It is.
So how do you recommend that somebody gets their feet into the marketing aspect of all of this without feeling like, oh no, I can't do this, and just wanting to give up?
I think you start with chapter 1 of your book, especially nonfiction. If you have because you may or may not have a book proposal. Like you may have already started writing the book before the proposal, which I think a lot of people start that. They've got at least something written for nonfiction anyway. And I think you start looking through and say, what's the value here? Is it motivational quotes? What are you teaching? What are you trying to help with? And then the question becomes, well, how do I make this something of value that they can get before they read the book? Or if they never read the book, how do I turn this into something? So like a recipe is kind of easy. Recipes work across the board. You can make anything a recipe. It can be the marketing recipe. It can be the book proposal recipe. You put the word recipe on there, people share it and they open it. I learned that in grad school. It's like a crazy keyword subconscious thing. People love recipes, and it can be, like I said, it doesn't even have to be food based. It could be anything. So it can be overwhelming, but you just go step by step. So let me share my screen and I'll show you something else, I guess. Let's see, we're going to go right back into Canva.
Yeah, and that was a question. The recipe page that you had, did you make that in Canva?
Yes. All right, so can you see my Canva here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have 52 chapters. And so I made a template, and then I just started changing. I just put the titles, literally put the titles, which is this, They Call Me, and whatever they called me. And I made 52 of them. And then I went back and had the book open and started putting the titles in. And then I just changed the pictures to kind of match. And so these are going to be all graphics that are in Facebook. This is an updated refresh from the ones that we did when the book came out. I think they're a little bit more current looking. I've also got the chapter, again, the chapter title number is here. And then I have the way for them to opt in on the side. So this kind of black chalkboard matches the cover of the book, which is a chalkboard background, and the website for them to opt in is there. So it's just taking it step by step, because this is a long process. So let's do this.
I noticed that you also have similar coloring for all of your pictures, which is a very good thing because it streamlines all of them and people will be able to instantly recognize that they belong together.
Yes. And I wanted to be very pale in the background too, so that the words would show up. So a lot of time was spent on the photos, I'll be honest. So I was trying to be quick and grab them and then change them out, but they kind of needed to be consistent. And having the title in that chalk, which is hard to see because it's small, but that they call me is in that chalk font. And then each one, it's going to be where someone sees it, they're going to recognize it. And then this one right here, this one right down here, chef, this is the picture that then would go with the recipe because it's in that chapter. So it's basically taking these small elements, even out of a devotional, which is what this is, it's very short, and saying, okay, I can make a graphic for this. My next step is I'm going to make a PDF resource. And we did that the same way. So let's see.
And these pictures that you used, were they in your book or had you taken them from another source?
I pay for a site, but you can get a lot of free ones from like Unsplash and Pixabay and things like that. I use one called Hot Stock now. And then Canva has a ton if you're in the pro version. And so the same thing that we did for those 52 resources, like if I had scrolled down, there's 52 of them, I did the same thing. I pulled, like, you can see some of these are the same background. I grabbed 5 backgrounds, 5 or 6, and then I just started switching out the content. So I've got They Call Me Mom on all of them, the chapters on all of them, this white box for the text is on all of them. And then I was just popping, I thought pizza should have like a picture. So some of them have some pictures, but most of them are just kind of the same basic things. And then it was a matter of pulling my book. And if you don't have a book, use your proposal in your marketing section or your chapter breakdown section, which is where all of this comes from, and start thinking, okay, what are some PDFs that I can do? What is some value that I can give away here? So again, this is really great for nonfiction. If you're doing something for fiction, start looking at things. Let me not share my screen anymore. If you're doing fiction, really leaning into the fandom. And I know we've had Britt Mooney on here before where he has talked about really sinking in there. So looking for things like, I'll always say this, Goodreads is your best friend when it comes to this, because the Reader's Choice Awards, I would go back 3 years. I think they just came out, well, recently with the next year. Look in your genre. If you're writing for kids, if you're writing for middle grade and YA, I would look at all YA and all middle grade books to see, because kids read up. That's where I would start, for fiction. And I would say, who are the authors here? I'd be making a list. I'd probably, if I was going to start that for fiction, I'd be doing a spreadsheet probably, and I would see which authors are winning. Which author was next? So like Rick Riordan for middle grade fantasy. He has that whole, I'm going to blank on it now. It's that mythology series. Somebody help me out here. But he always wins like every year. Yeah, Percy Jackson. Thank you. He's got, okay. So, and again, this year, I think it's number 13 in a row where he has won the #1 Reader's Choice category, because he keeps bringing out these books. So he is the top. So if you're writing in that genre, you have to beat him. Like, you don't get a pass for being new. He is your person. And so finding groups, there's tons of them, reader groups, and listening to what the reader groups are also reading is really going to help. But knowing that Rick Riordan owns the category, basically, I like to go down to who was number 2, 3, 4, and 5, like who got close enough to him, and then really start looking at them, because they might be new authors. They may have just 1 or 2 series. And anytime when you're looking in Goodreads and the Reader's Choice Awards, if a book is part of a series, sometimes the book 2 will win or book 3 will win from a series. You need to go back and find book 1 and then go back a couple of years. And that's how I found one of my favorite authors is Victoria Schwab. She also writes under V.E. Schwab. I found her this way because her book 2 had won or was number 2 in the category. So I'm like, I wonder what happened last year. So I went back last year and she had taken the first spot with book 1 in that series. I'm like, okay, what else does she have? And so now it's this exploration of who is this author? What are they writing? And this is fiction. And then who is she connected to? Like, who else are they reading? And then it opened up this whole new world of YA fantasy, low fantasy to me, that I fell in love with. But it started from looking at the Goodreads Reader's Choice Awards. And now that's the direction my own book is going in. And so it can even start really there. And it's just small steps. Like, this is a lot because it's done, but it was slow. I can get 3 of these out, 4 out for a month. I can do 4, and then I'll do another 4, and then I'll do another 4. And so it's just putting all those pieces kind of into place, because it is overwhelming. But once you've got it, it is done, and it just rolls in the background. And now what you can put into your proposal, and I know we've got some questions coming in. So I think in my marketing section of this proposal, I put some numbers. Yeah, I mean, is sharing my screen back and forth okay? I might be annoying, I know. So right here, I'm going to highlight it in pink, and if it's too small, let me know. But these are previous campaign results that we had for one of our books. I mean, it's not like super stellar, but it was a lot. We had over 200 posts. We had 2,000 comments. We had almost 4,000 reactions to the posts, and 59% of our members were active. And this was in a Facebook group. And so I got that from our analytics. Well, those are the kinds of numbers. Now I want to do better. So like if I'm going to do another campaign for the same amount of time, I have something to look at to see if I did a better job or not. And so doing it once, you're just laying the groundwork. So I really think like, while this can feel like I'm never going to be able to do this, do it, get your baseline numbers. And now you have something to say, okay, I figured this out. I know it worked and I know it didn't work. Nobody ever posted on any of these things, so I'm not going to talk about them anymore, but they loved this. And that's where you start exploring. So take the pressure off. If you're doing your first piece of groundwork, that's all you're doing. And you don't have to worry about the results until the campaign is done. And the campaign just means I'm going to do this for 1 month and see what happens. Then don't worry about those numbers for the first month. You just wait. I like to pivot within, like we can go real macro on this and real micro on this, but I won't do that. But, you know, it's interesting.
I think it was really genius though, too, that like it was a 52-week devotional, which, you know, I mean, I don't write devotionals, but those of you who do, you often do have, it's like 365 days or 52 weeks or whatever it might be. And, you know, to go ahead and make those graphics. And if you even then have a scheduling program, you can usually go out a couple months. So, I mean, you just sit down one day, put something on TV that you don't have to watch. You know, we've all got those shows that shows you have to watch, shows you just have one in the background, and you just schedule them and then it's done. So there is all this upfront work you have to do, but once it's done, then you're just scheduling. And I would guess, Bethany, and tell me if I'm mistaken about this, I mean, it's a year, but can't you just sort of rotate those every year for a bit? Because who's going to remember a year ago that you did the same thing? I mean, maybe.
Well, no, that's exactly. So let me share my screen again. Is that okay? I'm looking for specifically, I may have closed it out, which stinks. Well, okay, so I don't have it up in my Canva and I don't want to make you guys wait. But when we first did the mom book, we had a chalkboard background with the flower that matched the flower on the cover. And then we did a 12 Days of Moms video thing. So this is a way you can take a bigger project and do it smaller. We thought, how do we get influencers involved? And they don't have to be huge influencers. They can be small influencers you want to arrange. And so we invited 12 women to come on, and they each took a different topic. Mom, you were one of them.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
And we did the 12 Moms of Christmas instead of the 12 Days of Christmas. So again, we're leaning into, the book came out in October, I think, that year. So like, what's happening in the calendar right now? How can we make moms part of the conversation during all of this? And then we had them talk about maybe their favorite chapter, I think in the book or something. I don't remember. It was one of the topics, which was then they were then sharing it as well, but it looked completely different. And so what I just showed you is kind of the refresh, because this book is now 2 years old, almost 3. And I don't want it to die because it's evergreen. And so it's going back and saying, okay, I'm just going to go update everything in here. Let's start the conversation again in that group. And I'm going to be watching the numbers again and scheduling them through Meta because it's free.
And another thing with Canva is like, once you've got that template with your colors and your titles and all, I mean, it still takes time, but then you're just like duplicating and changing the text, changing the chapter title, duplicate, change the chapter title, and then you change those back pictures, and yes, time, but it's done. I mean, it's done.
It's done. So if there's any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll jump into.
Yeah. Sandra asked about where do you put your graphics and the PDFs you make on social media and in newsletter emails?
So the graphics that were the PDF graphic, we save it as a PDF. So that goes in the email. So every email when they opt into the mom resources, they get one a week. So every 7 days, another one sends out. And so I'm putting those, like I said, we're refreshing. So some of the ones are in there. I'm now refreshing some updated ones. And so I'm just uploading it as a file, and it just says, there's a little bit of text. It usually comes from the book. I'm just kind of pulling a few sentences out of the book. It's already written. And then download your freebie here. There's a link, which literally just lets them download it because I already have their email. They don't need to go anywhere else. Like I already got it. And then it just tells them, see you next week for your next resource. So it's a very simple email. And I am taking the photos, those graphics for social media, the square size, and I am putting them at the bottom of the email before the sign off. So that way it looks a little pretty, but their freebie is above that. That way, if it's above the fold, if you will, and there's only a few sentences that they can see in their email, that's it. So it's very, very simple. So it's time consuming. I mean, it's 52 of them that we're updating, but the funnel can still keep going. They just may get one that they wouldn't have gotten last week because I changed the order on a couple of them. But I don't, people don't really care so much as we think that they do about things like that, so.
It's the beauty of writing an evergreen book though, too, right?
It is. And it is. And that's what you're going to look for in your fiction is what are those, like I said, my mom's book is not about July 4th.
No.
At all. It's not even about picnics. But there is that scene kind of in the middle of the book that's kind of pivotal. And it's
your favorite scene in the book, Bethany.
What?
I think it's your favorite scene in the book.
It's just so vivid. Well, here's the thing. I look at these things through that marketing lens. And when I read that, I'm like, okay, she could talk about picnic spots in every state, which is something you should totally do. There's National Picnic Day. So there's all these things, and it's not this hard marketing. So, you're going to have to do that. You have to do things like, I'm going to run targeted ads. I am going to have some things where I'm just really promoting buy this book. You're going to have that. But I think for longevity and building audience, I think my sweet spot and kind of where I tend to be on the marketing side is more of this soft marketing, providing value while you're kind of talking about your book and building this audience. And it's slow, but you got to balance it with the hard stuff, which is harder to do, I think. In my opinion, I'm not super salesy, so it's finding that balance. But we can just go through all your books, Mom, and just come up with a million ideas.
Now I'm noticing that you are so knowledgeable about marketing. It is very easy for you, and for some of our listeners are like, I just don't know how to do this. But it kind of reminds me of when I started working at a shoe store. After working there for about 3 months, I began to notice everybody's shoes on their feet walking down the street. My husband is the same way. Once he got to being a roofer for a while, he drive down the road and he notices everybody's roofs. So if you begin to learn about marketing a little bit at a time, your brain will start to see things and pick up marketing techniques that you didn't used to do. So I would say begin to learn about marketing a little at a time. And the more you do it, the more you're going to start to notice those shoes on the feet in the street.
Yes, I love that. And then Pam just mentioned about her little girl's tea book. What's hot right now are parties, like party. Like my assistant Sarah, who has been on here before, she just had her bridal party and it was PARTEA. So these tea parties are coming back in vogue. They're even changing the way you spell party. And so if you've got tea in any of your books in any way, I highly suggest during bridal season, which is happening right now because a lot of weddings are happening, start sharing some ideas or pull something from your book, or, even if it's just my character ate or drank, this type of tea. Is this a tea that you would consider elegant at a something party? I don't know. Ask a question to your audience and let them tell you. It's not so much about that as it is building the engagement. You also mentioned your book. And will it lead to sales? I don't know. Maybe one, right? But we're not really looking at that ROI for this, that return on investment. The return on that investment is engaging with your audience and always reminding them that you're writing. That's kind of what that build is. When you're ready to say, okay, I need some conversions for this, then create a party draft outline of some kind and put it in your newsletter and start seeing if people are opting into it or not. So so it just goes steps. There's different there's different wins for each post. And so eventually you start kind of thinking, what's my win for this? And if you're just posting things online with no reason and you're like frustrated because you're not getting engagement, it's because your audience knows that you're just posting things for no reason and you don't even know why you're doing it. And so they can feel that. And so like social media is a conversation. It's building that engagement and listening. And if you don't know what to put, just ask questions and let people tell you. And then you might get excited about something they say. And now all of a sudden you have a post and a video and something that you can create from that. I've got a couple of things to show. I mean, like I said, I just wanted to kind of pop into different aspects of the proposal. I know we got a little bit of time. Okay, so we're going to jump back into my book proposal here. Okay, so this is the competitive works section that I have. Now there is a bad word in here, but I tried to black it out, but I think it's still showing through because it was the title of the book. so sorry about that. But this is the competitive works section. I think I've got 8 or 9, so I'm just going to kind of scroll through real quick. This is how I format it. So I guess this is kind of a teaching moment here, but it's like this one doesn't even have a thing here. Let's go up to here. So book, author, publisher, and date. You're like, this is my demo proposal, but you want to do an ISBN kind of like you have right here on this. And then you want to have how the book is similar and then how the book is different. So if you have a book proposal written that you've already sent in, or one for a book that's already out, but if you're working on one, be thinking about it as you're writing it. So if you've already got a proposal done, your competitive work section is a huge resource for you, because every book on this list should be a book that you're talking about on your own social media. And it's also a book that you should probably have in a resource list on your website that is also a downloadable PDF for anybody that also, see how we're doing steps here? We're doing steps on the website. Now we're turning it into a PDF. We also have an Amazon affiliate account that we're going to sign up for free, and we're going to link all of those books. So if someone clicks on the book, you can get an affiliate commission off of that. And then in your chapter breakdown section, you're talking about what's different and what's similar. So now you have all of these 5 to 10 posts where you can talk about the book and make a video for YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, where you're talking about why you loved this book. And then you can mention that the book that you're writing is different because this is all video value. I mean, you've got a way to get email subscribers from your competitive works. You've got a lot of social media content that you can create there as well with graphics and things like that. Mom, were you going to say something? I thought I saw. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And someone asked in the chat, because you have the word competitive titles, is that going, I know it used to be that, and then it went to comparative. Is it going back to competitive again?
I always use them interchangeably.
Okay.
It's also called the market analysis, which is really probably more what it is.
When you're comparing with the other books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, so you'll hear, well, we always call them comps, which could be comparative or competitive. But then I've seen some agents use market analysis for this section as well, which is what you're doing. Okay. So when you're doing your comps, let's call them comps. When you do that, you want to stay probably within the last 3 years, maybe 5. I've got some back in here, like from this, like for Lean In 2013. This was an international bestseller. Like, I don't think what I'm trying to do in this is not tell them I think my book is going to be the international bestseller, because she's the CEO of, or was the CEO of Facebook. There's no comparison to me and her there, but I wanted them to know that I knew this book existed, because they're going to know this book existed. So every once in a while, I will, if there's a book that was that big, I do include it, because I want them to see that I understand my market, which is what you're telling them in this section. For the most part, though, looking at books from 2020, maybe 2019 and 2021, and now looking at books in 2022 that are coming out. Another thing that you want to look at is go to the different publishers. There's so much information in your proposal. I think we just skip over it. We could probably do a part 2 on here. So, but thinking about the books that the publishers you're going to send this to, we've got Thomas Nelson, Harper Business, which is my dream publisher. I don't know how to say this one. Knopf, I guess. Portfolio. Let's see. Harper Business again. I mean, they just do such good. Wiley. And so if you're going to have your agents send books to them, they're not going to compete with themselves. So you have to think, how is my book different enough, if this is my dream publisher, that it fits in their line here. Or if it's almost pretty close, it's probably a publisher that's going to say no. And so this also can help manage expectations. But Harper Business is on here twice. Wiley is also really good with these kinds of books. So what I want to do is I want to go to those websites, Harper Business and Wiley, and see what books they have coming out this summer. What books are coming out this fall? Do they have the spring 2023 list already out? Because I need to see where they're headed. Because if they're headed in this direction, I want that focused in my proposal as well. So this market analysis is more than just I found 5 books that are similar. I have a lot in here, but here's another Wiley one. It's just showing that you understand where this is going and then adapting your book to meet where the market is. And I think when you do that, you have a better chance of getting a yes.
Now, I noticed that you've written most of this in third person. Is that customary for your proposal, or is it just customary for this section, or just the way you chose to do it?
I recommend third person because I want them to see my name. And the proposal stands in your place. It stands in your place for the agent when that book goes to an acquisitions editor who has to pitch the book to a team of people. The word I and me, like, who is that? So I put Bethany. Bethany, I mean, it's almost always third person for me. The only place I may change that is, let me see if I have an author's note in here. I may have a why this book, why now section, which I do. And it's in third person too. I actually don't even refer to myself in it. I can share that. So this is my why now section in here. And it's just, this one always gets updated. So right before it goes out, it's just making sure the stats are right. Why is this important? And it's a little bit different than the overview. Oh, there's also a why this book, which again has nothing to do with me. So I'm not even in it. And then here is the overview. Now I do try to pitch myself a little bit in here, which I did down here in this one paragraph. I mentioned my name because the publisher is thinking about their reader and their buyer, and not so much about me. This is not a memoir, and I think I mentioned myself one more time right down here because I'm telling them that I'm the person who's going to do this. So the overview basically is saying, this is the problem, this is the solution, and this is why I can write this book on this topic, basically. That makes sense. Let's just scroll down real quick. Let's see, to the chapter breakdown section. So that was the last part that I wanted. Sorry if you get sick while I'm scrolling. I'm really, really sorry.
You think at the end you could just give us a brief overview of all of the different sections of the proposal so that people can have an idea of there's this, and this in here?
Yeah.
Great.
So
thanks.
So this is my chapter by chapter synopsis, or the chapter breakdown section, either one. Some of them are pretty short. Some of them are a little bit, like chapter 3 is a little bit more robust than chapter 1 or chapter 2. But almost all of mine, I start out with those 4 words: in this chapter, readers. And I have to do that for myself because I have things that I want to talk about in these chapters, or have stories or something that has inspired me or what I want to share. And I have to go into reader mindset here more than anywhere else, besides probably the overview, because that marketing section is all you. It's you're selling you, your plan, your social, your email, how you're going to speak, all the things that you've done, your publication credits. Here, this is where the book is going, and it's all about the reader. And so I have to literally write these 4 words out. With chapter 3, I had something that I wanted to say, so I stuck it above that, but then I had to put it right here. So I wanted some personality to kind of shine through, and I wanted my voice to shine through in the proposal. And so I chose to have a couple of sentences in this breakdown, whereas I might not have it in the other. But it's pretty simple. Chapter 1 isn't an introduction, but it kind of has this feel to it. I just try to say, what are they going to get out of this? And you could bullet point this if you wanted to. Here's what readers are going to learn. If you've got 3 things in each one, you could list that. I don't necessarily have 3 things in each one, but because this is going to a So this demo proposal, if this was being sent out, this one would be for a faith-based publisher because I have a scripture section. And so this is also then telling me for each one of these chapters, what I could be doing is in Canva, and I have started this, is starting threads where I'm paying attention about verses on servant leadership. Well, this is something I need to start talking about more before the book ever gets picked up by a publisher. And then I always have a resource, because just like we did with the mom book, what can I give away that's going to be of value in this chapter? So I'm thinking through the marketing while I'm writing the proposal, because this is what I'm going to do. And this is why the proposal is your marketing machine. So as you're thinking through your book and you're putting in your scriptures, if it's faith-based, if it's not faith-based, just take that part out. You could put a motivational section here and put who you're like, for Navigating Minefields, which was In-Game Press, that's not a faith-based book. It's a general market book. So we use the motivational quotes instead of scripture. And so you could have a motivational line where who am I going to be referring to? Who are the influencers for this chapter? That's what we did there. And the resources. So as you're thinking through your book, now you jump from the chapter breakdown section back up into your marketing section. Okay, I have a resource for a contract, and I'm going to make that a download, and it's going to be part of an email funnel, and I'm going to make a video talking about it for a sales page. Well, that wasn't an idea probably in the original marketing, but as I'm doing my chapter breakdown section, now I have an idea. So now all of a sudden your marketing plan from this becomes more robust, if that makes sense. So like your proposal, I think the proposal, a really well done proposal, feeds itself. It's kind of alive in my eyes. And as you work on one section, you get an idea that now can go into a different section. That's why they take so many drafts and it takes so long to do. But I mean, a 15-minute daily worksheet, sample weekly calendar, those are easy. You can make those in Canva with templates. You don't even have to create them, but that's 2 more email funnels. So ideally, what I need to do is go through here, come up with every resource, and under my email and my marketing, I have 20 different landing pages that I will be creating for each one of these. So it just gets big like that. So you start small. Marie Kondo, I love her. Magic art of tidying up. Talk about the book. Organizing your house, talk about the book. So I'll unshare screen for a minute.
Do you see Dennis's question right there?
I need to scroll through a little bit, I think.
Okay. About proposals being short with an inclusion of first few chapters. You do just give like the first with oh, now my throat's going to go on me. With fiction, it's usually about the first 50 pages, which might be 3 or 4 chapters. But I think proposals anymore are pretty long, because you do just have to sell yourself and your marketing plan, and just there's a lot of information that goes in that. But it's because, again, it's not just for the agent, it's for the publisher. And if they say yes, that's what's going to go to their salespeople and their marketing people. So you've just got to have a lot of information in your proposal.
I have 2 chapters in this one, and it's 50 pages, if that helps.
The entire proposal is 50 pages?
Yeah, I just checked. So I see a lot of people, like when I help people with proposals, sometimes they'll be like 12 pages and it's too small. So the thing is, how do we leverage? Like, okay, let's think about what connections do we have? What organizations can we talk about? Where's the chapter breakdown section? What marketing can come from this? And that will really make it robust. But those first couple of drafts might be small. Even if you don't have a big platform, just in going through the 2 chapters, there's 3 email funnels that can be created. Same with your books. Even if it's fiction, start looking at it with that nonfiction lens. Like, where are the places that they're going? What is the food that they're eating? What is the time period?
Catherine comments, you have to write a book to write a book.
Yeah. It's a lot, but it should be fun. Like if truly, if you're writing this book because, let's talk nonfiction for a second. Usually it's because you want to help somebody. There's something going on that you want to resource there for people. So the message is what's important. And so now you're just taking the message out of book form and you're saying, hey, I can do this in a lot of ways, video, pictures, sometimes it's the how to do it part that scares us the most. I don't know how to make images in Canva, but there's YouTube tutorials for that. And aren't we glad that someone took the time to make a YouTube tutorial? I tell myself that all the time. Like, nothing is too small, because when you need to fix your washing machine because one little error sensor is going off and your husband is gone, you're really glad that that man filmed himself taking it apart and told you what you needed to get from the hardware store. So you can be that for people too. Nothing is too small to be doing it for.
There's a lot of white space in proposals too, which is nice because you've got these sections and you want it to be very easy to read and very easy to hone on to those sections. And you'll see Bethany's fonts were pretty large for her section headings. And I know my agent, they have their own kind of template so that when the publisher gets it, they recognize it right away as being from that agency.
They do.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot of white space and that's a really good thing too.
I will say,
makes it longer.
Well, yeah, it does. And I will say the more robust your proposal is, the faster you'll write your book. For nonfiction, I can't speak, fiction's a whole different ballgame. But for nonfiction, I promise you, if you have, the chapter breakdown sections are pretty short. It's like a paragraph, maybe two. But the marketing section is probably pretty long. The overview, you're going to go over and over and over and over again for that. But the writing the book will be easy. The more it goes into the proposal, the better chance you have at getting the yes from the publisher. I know you want me to scroll kind of through the proposal, which I'm happy to do if there's time. I know we're getting close.
Yeah, but yeah, I know you've got it. You aren't able to stay for a long time. So why don't we do that really quickly, and then we'll bring people back on very quickly.
And Catherine said too, it's partly because you've already written your book, and in a sense, you may not have the chapters written, but you know where the book is going, and that's why it makes it so easy. And I don't write any more chapters than I have to. So if I have to send in 2 or 3 for nonfiction, that's it. Whatever the publisher has, the publisher has. And if let's say nobody picks up the book, everyone says no for whatever reason, then if you've done your job well, you have a choice then to self-publish the book or go indie publishing because you've already got your marketing plan. It's already done. Everything's ready. So my goal with clients when I'm helping them proposals, especially ones that do a lot of speaking because they can sell in the back of the room, but they might have a big audience to where they could go traditional, they're on the fence, which is where a lot of them sit. And it's if they want to try for traditional, we always say, look, we're going to make this proposal the best proposal ever. And that way you can try for traditional, but if it comes back or it's too long or it goes against what you want to do, you have everything you need right here to take this book and do it yourself because you've got it all ready to go. And so that's kind of my goal with proposals, is to make them so good that you have walk away power if it didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to, like in terms of traditional. Yeah. So let me share my screen real quick and we'll kind of go through real quick the elements of the, wait, hold on. I probably need to get rid of Kyle's phone number. Sorry. Sorry, we're like on video.
That would be a good idea.
Sorry, real quick, 1 second. I didn't even think about it. Okay.
Can you
all right,
sweetie?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Trying to fill it like a whole page.
Yeah.
That better?
Better.
Yeah. Okay. Cover page. Proposal, table of contents, which I don't think is updated. Again, this is a demo one, so these numbers may not match, but the overview, why this book, it's not, there is a why this book section because the overview was so long that I wanted to separate that. This is the overview of the book. Here's the problem, why I'm the person to write it. Here's the why this book, where I really took the reader takeaway in here. I'm telling them my book is the answer to this problem. And then I'm really breaking down some reader takeaways, which might be repeated in the chapter breakdown section, but you never know where they're going to look. And most agents and editors do not read a proposal straight through. They're skipping, they're skimming. So it's like my mom said, you want a lot of white space. Why now? Well, there's a big reason for that. So I wanted to make sure that I had resources and surveys that were backing me up. So this is kind of where instead of, the overview may have been a little bit on the more emotional side of this. Here's the problem and we need a solution. Why now? Boom, stats. This is why now. And then I have something called an approach, which is kind of sharing more about style and tone of voice and that kind of thing. It's all the things that I want to put. Usually all of this is in the overview, and the closer I get to sending this out, like sending it to my agent, those things start pulling out into a why this book, a why now, and an approach. But originally they were all part of the overview, because I was just trying to get everything that I wanted to say. And then as I was cleaning it up, I wanted more white space and I wanted more sections. So I'm telling them the book has some sections. Here's a line extension. But again, this is also for me. So if I decide that I want to do any of these on my own, I've already got it somewhere where I could create these things. And these could be giveaways. This is really important. Format and deliverables. You've got to let them know that you understand how long the book is, because so much of the cost is on page count and things like that. And if your book is over the type of fiction, you can't give them a 300,000 word novel. Like, they just can't. Like, someone may have done it, but they are the exception. Like, it doesn't work for you. And so basically, I've heard agents and editors say when they see a word count that's way over what the genre requires, it's an automatic no. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Basically, this proposal is really you proving that you understand what's going on in the world of publishing. Target audience is here. I have it broken down into that first paragraph is my target audience. I like to use a lot of voice here and let them kind of see my tone in the section. Secondary audience, tertiary and affinity groups. And affinity groups are going to be groups of people who might also be interested. These are Facebook groups that you can start joining, or different kinds of things for marketing. Bio, I'm going to scroll through here. I just put everything, everything. You can think of, I link a lot, so they can just click. By the numbers, here's where you're going to start giving your actual numbers for your social media, and make sure to link. You can see the blues right here, but make sure you link them. They don't need to go find you. Just make it easy. Let them click. Let them just click through your Word document. I've got a little bit on each one of these. Your endorsements, people you can reach out to. Here's your comps. I like to keep it down further in the proposal near the chapters. Kyle recommends 8 to 10 comps. But they're going to help you anyway. You need to know these books, so I don't think it's a problem. And then here's your chapter breakdown. So I was going to scroll through here. They all kind of have the same format, although some are longer. They'll have that scripture and resources. And that's all your marketing as those resources. And here starts chapter 1. Ta-da.
That's great. Your proposal really strikes me as being very similar to a business plan if you're starting a business. So really, the proposal is your book's business plan.
It is. That's a great way to think about it. It really is. I think it should be. Let's put it that way, because they're not all.
I mean, it totally is, because then a publisher can follow it, you can follow it, and it's what you go back to time and again for your plan. If when you're writing your book, it guides you. It makes perfect sense. I just want to thank you so much for coming and doing this today. We're at the top of the hour, a little bit past.
Sorry.
We can have maybe a couple questions in the after party, because we don't want to go over too much, but next week we're going to have a come write with a session. And so that's going to be fun. We're all going to get together and do a little bit of writing to some exercises, pretty much to help us hone our skill, whether you're a nonfiction writer or a fiction writer. Everybody should practice how they write, and you can benefit from all different kinds of writing styles and really push them beyond maybe what you normally write. So we're going to take a look at that next week and have some fun. So please, everybody, stay for the after party if you can, and we will see everybody next week.